This is Marketing Jam, a show featuring the brightest minds in marketing.
Brought to you by Canada Post. Head to canadapost.ca/insight podcast for ideas to add value to your marketing.
All right, welcome to another episode of Marketing Jam. I am so excited for a few reasons. Reason one, this is our 100th episode, and so we are celebrating that we have been around a very long time. Bit of an OG podcast show. Some of you have been listening since day one, so welcome to all of our loyal listeners. Second thing that we're really excited to announce that we have partnered with Canada Post. You probably heard the new intro. We're going to be talking about some really exciting ventures that we're doing with Canada Post and some stories about how postage and digital and how postage and marketing is working really well together in 2020 and beyond. And third thing, we are in the new Jelly Studio. So those that are watching this on YouTube or Instagram, you are seeing a new background, a new style. So those of you that are just listening to the audio, that's still cool too. And if you go over and see the visual demonstration, that's awesome as well. But welcome to Marketing Jam. And I'm so excited because we at Jelly are big users of Clutch. And I have Ryan Stevens here from Clutch, which is very exciting. Now, Ryan, when you get introduced, do you like to be called Clutch.co, or do you just go with Clutch, or how do you describe your company?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. I don't think we have a definitive answer for you. Often across the phone, we say Clutch.co in order to help people navigate to the right website, right platform. So Clutch.co works perfectly fine. Internally, we go by just Clutch.
And where does that name come from? What is Clutch?
Oh man, so Clutch spurs from a rebranding exercise that took place about 5 years or so ago. We went out seeking a name, and at that time found out that naming agencies existed, a category we now cover on Clutch, just if you're looking for it. But we were called Sourcing Line prior to Clutch. That sourcing line really stemmed from sort of early days on what we were trying to solve of really helping companies source their projects and tied a little bit more towards outsourcing, looking into what the brand and what we wanted people to feel and see. We realized we needed something a little bit more evocative and a little bit more fresh. So we landed on Clutch. We tie it back to a variety of different things, but largely probably that clutch play and being coming through in the clutch in the sense of really helping make sure that projects are completed.
Okay. Awesome. So I am really torn with this episode because Clutch has been one of my best sources for qualified traffic, meaning in our Google Analytics. For years since Jelly started, we always analyze every month where is traffic coming from, but more importantly, we set up Google goals, and so we see where is qualified traffic coming from. So we monitor people that spend more than 5 minutes on our site as one of our Google goals. Second thing is if they fill out a contact form or if they phone us. And so Clutch, especially in the last couple of years, has always been in the top 10 for top referring traffic. And that's people that have spent more than 5 minutes and filled out the form, etc. So I don't want everyone to know about it, but I also want everyone to know how great you guys are and how good you've been to Jelly. And the other one that popped up randomly was this website called The Manifest. And I was like, I didn't even register on The Manifest. And I've discovered that's a birth, like what do you call it? You kind of...
We're working to build a portfolio of platforms all tied to the Clutch brand. We largely coin it as our sister site.
Okay, sister site. Okay.
But it's an effort to continue to allow users who potentially consume content in different ways a pathway to do that. So the Manifest takes more of a blog style approach to a lot of similar content as what you're going to see on Clutch, and present it in a different way that may be more consumable.
And for those that are yet to go on Clutch, it's a free platform for them to list their agency on and get found. Is that kind of the best description?
Yep, it's a free platform. We really term ourselves as a B2B ratings and review platform, helping businesses connect. We know that there's a gap in the market for information regarding small to medium-sized businesses, and we're working to provide that. We're working to provide that to people looking for those type of services.
And to bring up UpCity, which is another similar type of site, you list your agency in there, you can get reviews, but your review style is way different in that you actually phone every person. You had to get a phone number from every one of our clients before you actually put the review on the site. And why is that? Why aren't you going kind of the UpCity route where anyone can just review electronically?
Yeah, so I mean the market's is changing, and the business-to-business space is very different than what you're going to see in a lot of other, or in particular in business-to-consumer, um, the business-consumer marketplace. So the veracity and the fact that all of our reviews are verified is so important and is the key differentiator for your listeners to really internalize. Right now, there are dozens and dozens of other platforms and sites, and there are more each day that are going out there collecting, to collect reviews, and those reviews, without calling out names, may or may not, have some, truth or reliability behind them.
So when you guys launched Clutch, you're a different name, but you've been around for how many years now?
6 is kind of the official timeline, but our founder Mike Beers has been at it for a bit longer than that.
So if you Google right now, I'm just using Vancouver, BC, Canada as an example. If you Google Vancouver SEO agency or Vancouver PR agency, Clutch is the #1 organic ranking for both of those searches. And why is that? What have you done to the Google rankings?
That is great news to hear. The Canadian Google seems to love us, so we will bless up to Google in general and say that we appreciate that. But we work really hard at providing great content. Right, that's the start. Whether or not we're listening, we're talking to SEO agencies or to any company out there that is just building a website. It starts with content that is helpful to the intended audience, and making sure that we are representing or we are serving up content that is representative of what that user is searching for, and it's a curation battle that we're continuing to go through, but starting with strong content that's helpful, and then making sure that we find paths to market it and to get it in front of more and more and more buyers and just other people who would be searching those terms.
So do you think it's because you are providing a really comprehensive list? That's why Google loves you so much?
Well, I think based on some of the things that Google will share and some of the other hypotheses that are out there is that list content as well as review content is being favored more in Google searches. So I think that's in particular has something to do with it. But again, I think it's the helpfulness to the intended audience. We have a really when people navigate to the site, they spend quite a bit of time looking through the site, which I think is a really strong and positive signal to the Google gods, and continue to try to focus on how we improve that experience when people do land on Vancouver SEO agencies and Vancouver PR agencies.
You launched a new setup where you now actually act as an eHarmony between brands and agencies. Why don't you tell us about that?
Oh man, it's still in its infancy, so I don't want to praise it too much, but it's all about rolls into us trying to evolve as a business. Our team has such a wealth of knowledge, and we're conducting thousands of reviews every month, and our team is speaking, as you mentioned, to these clients and learning what went well, what didn't go well, what makes a service provider successful, and leveraging that information, and again trying to provide more value to the users of the platform. has been a big focus of ours. So to your point, we call this new service our project matchmaking service, and we're working to basically recognize that everybody who lands on the site still doesn't want to do their own filtering and doesn't want to sift through the site. We obviously know that some people are DIY and want to do it themselves and do their own research, but others aren't. And again, I think this stems from where we are as humans and technology. Make the decision for me, and this is our chance, and this is our opportunity to help make that decision for them, because we do have such a wealth of really great service providers on the platform, that we're able to listen to these buyers' needs and then point them in the right direction so that they don't have to do it for themselves.
So you guys matched me up about a month ago with a company. So we are specifically in Langley, British Columbia, and they were in Surrey. So they were literally 15 minutes from our office, but they went to Clutch and they got a smattering of options of introductions. And we ended up meeting up. So I hosted them at our office, and I thought it was so cool that your matchmaking service set us up with a brand that was just 15 minutes down the road.
Oh, that's so great to hear. And please, any feedback there. We're always open to more, because it's a new program for us and we want to improve. And but that type of feedback is reassuring.
Cool. So I love that you are focusing on the business-to-business market. So as far as marketing trends, what are you seeing is going to be coming up in the next while that we all need to be aware of and conscious of as B2B marketers?
I mean, I'm gonna do the pitching our brand, right? I think it's recognizing that the B2B space is going to continue to move closer to what you see in the B2C space, right? The importance of reviews, the importance of an online reputation. So many buyers are making up their mind prior to ever speaking to service providers, and making sure that you as an agency, whether or not you are in the digital development technology space or are an accounting firm that has existed for 50 years, or some other very traditional word of mouth businesses, those decisions are going to be more and more decided online. And so platforms that provide research reviews on the B2B space, I think are going to have their day.
Yeah. So especially there's a lot of websites like yours that monitor software, and they compare software and they rate software.
Yeah.
And so you guys actually chose to focus on agencies. Are you looking at diversifying your portfolio as far as going into other markets as well?
No.
Okay.
But if they ask, yes. No, I mean, the big players in the B2B software space have it covered, right? They're duking it out, and we're happy to let them continue to do that. And maybe that's me oversharing. But that is the truth, is that the G2s and the Gartner digital markets of the world, they do a nice job in building reviews on B2B software, but that's not where we're focused, and we have a very different value prop and the type of review that we're trying to provide. And so when it comes to diversifying into software, it's not in the cards for us right now.
Mm-hmm. So as far as like books or podcasts or magazines or e-newsletters, what do you subscribe to and what do you consume so you stay on top of your marketing game?
My marketing game. So honestly, I don't listen to a whole lot of marketing podcasts. I do want to give more today. I listen to a lot of just operational type workspace podcasts. One that I have been listening to recently, that's less again related to marketing, but I've really enjoyed is one called Hello Monday. It's a LinkedIn podcast just about work in general and how to approach the workspace, that I think we can all really always take a step back and understand that the workspace is evolving, it is changing, and that and how you approach people and individuals and your business is so important. So no marketing podcast for me, but I really do work to stay well read. Search engine land obviously is so relevant to our business, and those guys have always some of our contexts there have always really we've really benefited from just being able to leverage them for a variety of different reasons. And but search engine land is great. Always keep a pulse on just what Google shares or doesn't share. But those are always so important, I think, for any search-based business. And I think talking about how I learn most, it's really trying to interact with our users. Are the businesses featured on our site. So understanding what struggles they're seeing, what things they like about the platform, what things they dislike about Clutch and what we do, and then trying to whether or not I agree or disagree with the feedback, learn from it, and that's where I guess where I most of my learnings
is in the trenches.
Yeah, it's just kind of in the trenches and trying to keep my ears open to what struggles the agencies featured on the platform are experiencing, and that changes right now. If you are a digital marketing agency, it's different than if you are a software development agency. It's different if you're in Canada. It's different if you're in India. It's different if you're in Poland, middle of nowhere, Florida. They're all different struggles. And just trying to create a platform that is best for as many users as possible.
I have a love-hate relationship with your review setup because I have to ask the client to get on a phone call and do a favor for me, but I'm only allowed to then do clients that actually like the work we've done, but they're also going to give really honest feedback because they're going to give the pros and the cons of working with our agency. Because of that, I've actually been asked a few times in the last couple of years, hey, can you give me a couple phone numbers or emails of your clients so I could do a reference check? And the great thing I often say is I don't want to have my clients bugged or called by strangers that they don't know. So I'll often refer them to Clutch and say, hey, there's a software out there. It's a website. They did a bunch of phone calls for you. They did a bunch of interviews. Go there. And it's actually, they've really liked that because then they know that these are real phone calls, real reference checks that are actually posted publicly.
Yeah, that's so great to hear. And that's the brand that we're working to build. And right now we have a brand. It can grow with business service providers, but how do we build that brand with buyers? So that buyers continue to understand the process and understand that we're a reliable and verified source that they can go to, where our reviews are going through a vetting process, so that they can eventually and hopefully replace this idea of a reference check or reference call. Will we ever be able to get it to 100%? Probably not. But can we help get it to 80%, where you as a service provider no longer need to send strangers, to your point, to your really trusted relationships of your clients, and in particular, if that pool of trusted clients is small, there's going to be a day where you have become a burden to them, and that's another thing that we can help to solve, is reducing that burden on our service providers' clients.
It's really cool. Now, do you guys do any swag as Clutch?
Do swag?
Yeah, like T-shirts. Do you do what's your swag? Like, what's the Clutch swag?
That is actually a really relevant question. So next week we have our sort of end of year party, and I kind of went rogue and ordered long sleeve Clutch swag. And so for our listeners on audio, we have a dark blue and a red-ish logo. The shirts came in last night. They are black and orange. So we have Halloween long sleeve T-shirts that I'm currently in the process of getting sent back and hopefully having new ones rushed so that they're here by the party next week. But yeah, we keep a pretty casual in-office culture. So t-shirts and pullovers and things that are branded we like because we can wear them around the office. Mugs and pint glasses and some of that typical stuff there too. But the really relevant question, because right now we have Halloween themed long sleeve t-shirts. No, that's actually, I will pass it along. We've gone through a little bit of an internal effort to create some things for some of our agencies come December. So we have, I'll take a note to make sure that you're on that list of teams that should be receiving some of this surprise. I'll keep it a surprise.
Because it's hot again. Like coloring books are hot again for adults. There's adult coloring books. Why not an adult connect the dots? So
That's
there you
true.
go. Yeah.
Back of menu, that was my favorite thing back in the
right.
restaurant. Like I love that. Yep.
Yeah, White Spot still offers that. It's pretty nice here in Canada, mostly in British Columbia. White Spot restaurants, when you come up to Vancouver, you got to check it out. They have a BC burger. It's delicious. So for you personally, are you an iOS or an Android guy?
I am an iOS guy.
And what are the apps that you can't live without? What's your go-to apps on an everyday basis?
Oh man, what do I use? I'm picking up my phone. I just want to take a look at the most frequently used. Well, obviously with Spotify. I get sucked into the Instagram. What else? It's getting cold here. I know it's probably been cold there, so my Uber Eats bill has been out of control. But outside of that, I'm not as big of an app user. Spotify. I pay my bills via apps, but not a big consumer on apps.
Random fact, we do not have Uber yet in Vancouver, Canada, but we have a thing called Skip the Dishes, which was created in Winnipeg, Canada, which is the center of our country, and they've been amazing. But sadly, we are without Uber at the moment, so we're hoping it comes soon. So for you, outside of Clutch, outside of Manifest, what is 3 things that every B2B marketer needs to be doing in the next few months? What's something that, like, man, you need to be doing these 3 things outside of our awesome listicle sites?
Yep. All right, B2B marketer. Well, I think number 1 is focusing on your client so that you are creating, relationships that are meaningful, and that you will, at some later point be able to send them to Clutch to talk. So I think, not to spend too much time on this number 1, but I think that is like somehow lost in the B2B space of that, these are your customers and bending over backwards is part of the job. So number 1, focus on your customers, and making sure they're happy. It's one thing I want to spend on as on this topic is that it's often I think an expectations setting game. So tied into the same theme is like manage and set expectations and communicate those over and over and over. Do not overpromise at any point in this game, because it it will come back to to bite you. And we see it every day is that service providers are hungry for the business and don't manage expectations and then end up with a very dissatisfied dissatisfied client at the end of the day. So I'm going to count that as number 2, manage expectations.
That's great.
And number 3, and I know this may seem like an odd one, but pay attention to your email, your info ads, your contact forms. Find somebody who can manage that inbox reliably and quick. I I I, I don't want to swear, but I can swear that every day our team hears a client say, they're the first company that responded back to me. They're the first company that responded back to me. They're the only company that responded back to me. And these can be, these can be companies that have, or these can be individuals that had $100,000 budgets, $200,000 budgets. I'm not just talking about the mom and pops and the, the less sophisticated buyer that is, only looking to spend, $500,000. No, it's so important that you kind of treat every email the same, because you never know who's on the other side of that email. And it's been particularly interesting to me because there have been multiple times out there that I have gone and for various internal reasons gone out and shot an email 2 or 3 sentences because I'm busy. I don't want to spend a million hours writing a very detailed email with my budget and what specific things I want. I just want to I know that I have a big budget. I know that I need somebody to help me. I just want someone to respond to my email before I start diving into whether or not those things. And multiple times it's 2 weeks later that I somehow receive an email back being like, oh, sure, we're interested in your business. Really? So I think that is a really third bullet point that is so important, is that, you can suss out some of the, emails and contact forms that may not be worth your time, but don't do it to all of them, because you never really know who's on the other side of that contact form.
That's awesome, man. That's really, really good advice. I had started something when I was in high school, and I'd email these people and call these people. This is back when Hotmail just launched. So I'd go to my, the computer lab at UVic and email people, and I would often never get a reply back, never get a call back. And I remember swearing to myself as a 17-year-old, like, I will always email everyone back. So maybe I do that too much. So I'm trying to figure that balance of like.
It's a balance. It's a balance.
Yeah. So here's a question for you. I often get asked, hey, how do you vet if an agency is good, or how do you know, right? Outside of clutch references, outside of their website, outside of their case studies. So one thing I often suggest is check out their Glassdoor and see the happiness of their staff, because if happy staff equals a happy agency and they're happy to work there and excited to work there. So one request for Clutch is to integrate Glassdoor rating, much like iTunes integrates the Rotten Tomatoes score into their, I would say integrate Glassdoor if you can.
Yep. Yeah. Well, first,
that's my user request as a customer.
And I'm taking note of it, and I will. I know that my founder and my team will be happy to hear that request, because some of our best performing agencies, and I don't conduct client interviews anymore, but when I was, they were the best and most glowing reviews always talked about the company's team, and not just the one individual that they worked with, but everybody that they ran into. They would glow about people who wanted to do the work, that wanted to do good work. And so we agree on this Glassdoor front. It is a very, very valuable source, understanding the service provider that you're going to go with, right? How do they treat their team? How do they treat their employees? Do people like to work there? Are people happy? So while it's a different take on evaluating a company, it's a worthwhile one to look at, because you're going to get some insight into their management structure, and while sometimes I think the personal nature of Glassdoor is a little harsh. I think it's really important information, and it's helpful to get an insider's look into how things are operating.
It's awesome. Well, Ryan, it was a real honor to have you on the show. Ryan from Clutch.co. Check them out. If you're not listed there already, make sure you get listed. They've been a great resource for Jelly. We're huge fans. So finally we get to talk in person. I've emailed with your company over the years. And so to put a face behind the company is really exciting. Put a voice behind the company is really exciting. So thank you again, Canada Post, for presenting and sponsoring this podcast. We're really excited about this partnership. 100 episodes, a lot to celebrate. So thank you again for joining us, our Marketing Jam. I'm Darian, your host. This is Ryan from Clutch.co, and we'll see you next week on the Jam. Outro music.